professional basketball, from Hall of Famer to former owner, and they're answering your questions right now. Dave, I want to play another piece, and then you and I can talk about it, of this tape.
It's the world. You go to Israel, the blacks are just treated like dogs.
So do you have to treat them like that too?
The white Jews, there's white Jews and black Jews. Do you understand?
And are the black Jews less than the white Jews?
100%, 50, 100.
And is that right?
First of all, I don't know what he's talking about, but Dave, why do you think this tape would come out at this time during the playoffs?
Well, first of all, I say as a Jewish American, he's talking about the reality that there is a lot of racism in Israel. Once again, discussion behind closed doors. You get a glimpse of that. Why is it coming out right now? Because now's when the tape was released. And the fact that it's coming out right now is also what makes it such political TNT for the NBA, because this is that time of year when you have all of the soft fans begin to pay attention to what's called the second season, the NBA playoffs. And this is where the owners are going to make their strongest argument that Donald Sterling is actually detrimental to the game. And I think it's going to be the lead argument for the owners, and they are out there that want to actually wrest control of the franchise from him.
Steve, here's a question from Twitter. It says, are people scapegoating Donald Sterling to mask their own complicity in keeping racism alive and well today? I mean, do you think it's part of the overall threat of racism in America?
Nah, I think, again, I mean, I authored a book, The Tanning of America, because I do believe that there's been a generation that do see the world through similar values, unless they wouldn't have voted for an African-American president. That's evidence of such. I think that he's an isolated incident. I think there's more of that. But you have these isolated incidents of people who have racism in their heart. And, fortunately, he got caught on tape, and he should be dealt with as a result.
Michael, exactly what power does the NBA have in deciding to remove him as an owner or what have you? Because we saw what the NBA can do, right? They can fine him. According to the bylaws that I see, up to $2.5 million, and that they can vote three-fourths of the NBA Board of Governors, which you would know about, Paula, which is composed of all 30 owners, to get rid of him. So, what options do they have here?
Yeah, so it is true that he can be fined a certain amount of money, whether it's $1 or $2.5 million. There's some debate about, but he's worth approximately $1.9 billion. So I don't think a fine would likely send the kind of message that the NBA wants to send. I think a suspension is probably the most likely outcome, a lengthy suspension, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And I say that because if the league were to try to force him out, he would then likely argue, I think, that there's an antitrust violation, and it's this. The NBA and its teams would have joined hands as competitors to force him to sell his team at below market value. I believe he would then argue that that's an antitrust violation. He would sue, and under antitrust law, there are treble damages. But he could also sue for breach of contract in terms of the franchise agreement, and even defamation. So suspension would likely avoid some of that.
He is notoriously litigious, but they're saying if you read the bylaws, it says Sterling is notoriously litigious. Can he go to court to stop Silver from punishing him? And it says not effectively. When Silver issues his punishment to Sterling, the decision is final. The Constitution provides in paragraph blah, 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 blah. The commissioner's decision shall be final and legal and binding and conclusive, and he really has no other recourse. He can't turn around and re-sue them.
Well, Don, that would be with the suspension. To actually require him to forfeit his team takes it to a different level where he'd have to give up an asset. Yeah. And he would likely argue, and I'm not justifying what he's doing, but that would be an extra step. A suspension, you're right, he's not going to be able to stop that. Requiring him to forfeit his team, he will be able to challenge that.
Okay. Isiah, I'm going to give you the last word here and talk about let's begin where we started. And many people on this panel feel the same way. You heard Steve say the same sentiments. We have to bind together. We have to somehow make a difference and rise to the occasion. What are your final thoughts?
Everyone's anxious to have this discussion. You see how excited everyone is and the participation around this discussion of race and racialization. Let's move it from the sports field and move it into society, and let's talk about these things and have this debate publicly and privately to make our country better.
Right, and not just on television or when you see it on the news, you have to do it in your private life as well. Thank you to all of my guests. I really appreciate all of you, and we're going to stay on this story and bring you the reaction from the NBA's news conference. Remember, that is tomorrow on